Hi again, welcome. My name is Becca. I am sharing my journey online. If you want a quick introduction to who I am, you can watch the video that I posted before this. I have decided to come online and start sharing my journey of spiritual awakening, my journey from atheism to God. It's been a crazy, bumpy road, a wild ride, and there's so much to talk about. And what I want to talk about today feels really important. And so I haven't been able to shake that this maybe needs to be one of my earlier videos. And what I want to talk about is medicine and my particular journey with pharmaceutical medication while I was on and beginning this spiritual awakening. So I think I mentioned it briefly in the video before, and if you are familiar with spiritual awakenings or any sort of type of transformational journey, there is often, maybe always, what is referred to as the dark night of the soul. So I do want to put a little disclaimer out there that the intensity of the dark night that I'm getting ready to talk about was brought on by an experience that I had with ayahuasca, which is a psychedelic plant medicine. I'm not going to go too deep into that, or this video will be way too long. That's going to have to be a video for a future time, because it is something that's really important to talk about. But I can say now, looking back, this was about 4.5 years ago, that I was mentally, physically unprepared for that journey at that time. I can't say that I regret it. I got beautiful, beautiful medicine from it, but I was not prepared. The facilitators were not prepared to take care of someone who had an experience like I did. They were not familiar with it, which is a problem. Again, this is for a video in the future. But with that little bit of a background, I'll dive into the meat of it. So when I got back from ayahuasca, I was essentially thrown into a really, really dysregulated state, right? So our nervous system has to go on this journey with us. And that can look like a lot of different things. For me, it was sort of like dread. It was almost terror at times. I was so terrified to be here, to exist as a human. All of a sudden, it felt very much like, what am I doing here? This place is not safe. I don't want to be here. And I was very overwhelmed very quickly with very intense feelings of panic. And I would wake up and it would start immediately. It would last all day. I would have multiple panic attacks a day. I was really struggling to eat. I was not sleeping. I was paper thin. I looked sickly. It was a really, really horrific time. And just based on some of the people who were helping me through it, Reiki masters, acupuncturists, therapy, spiritual coaching, it was made clear to me that there are more and more people on the planet who are waking up right now, whether through a means of something like plant medicine or otherwise, who are having very intense, very accelerated awakenings, and it can absolutely wreak havoc on your nervous system and your physical body and your mental state, and it can happen very quickly. So essentially, I was taken down by this very quickly, and I was struggling to survive. I had no coping mechanisms. I had no internal structures anymore that could allow me to feel safe or hidden. Those were all being taken away. Those were all being, dissolved around me. I had no place where I could feel safe internally or externally. And needless to say, my friends and family were very concerned. I was constantly being told it was fine if I needed to go get some help and get some medicine, but I was just convinced that these people didn't know what they were talking about, because again, this was a spiritual crisis. This was a spiritual emergency, not what I considered to be, a more typical mental health crisis like I had experienced in the past. I had some mental health issues before my awakening began, and I was just like, this is not that. This is different. And there's not a lot of people talking about the role that medicine could play in a spiritual awakening. There's really not. And in fact, what I did find online was some really unhelpful messaging saying that medication could block an awakening or could block God or spiritual divine guidance or wisdom from getting through. And I just was unwilling to do that. No matter how intense my suffering was, I was unwilling to block it. I wanted to wake up. I wanted this so badly. But about 3 months in, it got so bad, and my anxiety was so intense and my hopelessness was so intense. So this crippling depression matched with the most intense anxiety, it was not sustainable. And about 3 months after ayahuasca, I was suicidal. And I did finally agree, at my mother's begging and pleading, to check myself in. We went to the emergency room and I checked myself in to a psychiatric ward where I knew I would inevitably be put on medication. But it was either that or death. And so I chose medicine. And what I didn't know was happening was that God was there. God was in that mental hospital. God was in that room when I was talking to the psychiatrist. God heard my prayers, match me with the best doctor the first time, have them prescribe the right meds at the right dose the first time. I do not have time to dabble here and there in different meds and figure this out. I need relief, and I need it now. God was there. And when I started to realize that these prayers were coming true, the first doctor, the first med, the first time I got relief, I still felt all of the things that you're going to feel when you move through a journey like this, through a spiritual transformation like that. It's unavoidable. No way around it. Trust me, I looked for ways around it. These feelings are going to be intense. They're going to come up. You're going to have to learn to be with them. But I was at a place where I could not be with them. My nervous system was sounding all the alarms. It felt like I was dying, because there was a part of me that needed to die, but I was not physically dying, obviously, but my nervous system was sending that message to my body. And when I look back at the way that the medicine helped me, I would not be here today if it wasn't for that medicine. If God hadn't spoken through the right people at the right time, through the medication that I took when I took it, so beautifully, so perfectly, I would not be here. God was in all of that. So what I want to create today is essentially the video that I wish I would have found 5 years ago. Because trust me, I was Googling this shit. I was like looking for evidence that I could take medicine, I could get help that maybe wasn't traditionally seen or talked about in these spiritual communities, but that I could do that because I wanted to survive. I wanted to live. I wanted to do this. I was not seeking medicine to shut me down, to shut down the awakening, to put me back to sleep, to block all of this out. No, I was looking for something that would be a tool that I could use to help carry me through this, because the other things up until that point that I had tried were not helping. So I want to share this message. If this feels familiar to anyone, I am not telling anyone what to do or not to do. I'm not telling anyone to take meds or not take meds. What I am telling you is that there is nothing, especially some chemicals in a little pill, that can block God from you. There is nothing that can block you from God. If God is what you are seeking with your heart and through your intentions, if God is what you are seeking, there is nothing that will block you. Take the help. If it's in front of you, if it's being offered to you, if it feels right, take it. Take the message from me. Nothing will block you. That is a promise. Thank you for coming. Sorry if I rambled. Stick around. I will be making more videos about other things in the future that I find might be helpful, that were definitely helpful for me on my journey. And until next time, thanks again. Bye.